How's it going, guys, and welcome to your morning cup. We're doing something a little different today, and that is catching up on stories that we've covered for a while now. We understood that we cover a lot of bases on this show, and it's of course important from time to time to make sure that the information that was provided to you guys is updated regarding the developing stories that have occurred since. So we're going to start off with the Myanmar coup. Now, we've covered the Myanmar coup in intensive detail, and if you guys haven't really checked those episodes out, I suggest that you do so that you can be brought up to speed. But the latest regarding the Myanmar coup is the fact that the intense killings has ramped up significantly. Upwards of 320 people have already succumbed to the military and its atrocities in Myanmar. What we also understand is the fact that the military has resorted to shooting innocent civilians. They barged into a house and they tried to search the house. They met the father of a young 7-year-old girl and asked the father if he was supporting the coup. After the father denied, they said that he was lying and he was supporting the coup, and they tried to shoot him only to miss at point blank range and shoot a child in the face, marking the youngest death to the military coup till date. This cited further outrage against the military coup. We saw tremendous protests break out. We saw silent protests break out. In the latest, we've seen garbage protests break out where people are contaminating the streets, dictating that the coup is filth. And in retaliation, we see that the military coup leaders, by all specs of the imagination, are not holding back either. Airstrikes have been conducted against civilians. Airstrikes. That's just horrible to even think about, that people are going to be conducting airstrikes on their own people, on their own civilizations. There's been ample amount of army officials as well as military officials that have quit the army and joined the anti-coup protests, but to no avail. The sheer people in charge, in power, are completely blinded by the scale of power that they currently hold on to, are completely blinded by the authority that they currently hold on to. Aung San Suu Kyi has not been heard from since her trial. There have been new charges levied against her with no substantial evidence to follow suit. Facial tracking software is still being used abundantly, and China, on a continuous scale that is supposedly now a pattern, is helping the coup out in every way that they possibly can. China is, as a matter of fact, going against the rest of the world in order for military action or any boots on the ground action to be taken by the UN. China and Russia have their own agendas at play, and what we don't understand is that this is a bigger story for them. Moving on, we understand that the volcanic and seismic activity has been ramped up significantly since we last spoke about it. There have been numerous tsunami warnings, numerous independent eruptions across the globe, ranging from Australia, ranging from the Middle East, ranging from Guatemala all the way to Iceland. There have been intensive seismic activities being recorded, as well as volcanic activity being recorded in various sectors across the globe. Tsunami warnings were in place for numerous regions in the middle. Luckily, no tsunamis have made landfall yet. The activity still continues to be ramped up as we speak. What might be the conclusion from this is still anyone's guess. We are noticing for sure is that the scale of the seismic activity in March end is tremendous in comparison to what happened last year. The pandemic is still raging, but the seismic activity does not seem to take a back step either. Moving on to the United States and Mexican border, we understand there has been a new surge of migrants. The migrant caravan, if you will, moving in from the American subcontinent all the way up to the United States border with Mexico. And this ramped up after Biden won the election. And upon interviewing some of these migrants, they dictated the fact that Biden is a good guy and he will let us in. Biden, in a very well-known speech, put out a statement dictating that he would give the chance to the people from Central America, people from Mexico, to have their cases heard in order to be able to be given access to the United States. But to complete disarray from the right, it has been an issue of rather conflict. And what we don't understand now is that how is this any different from what happened under the Trump administration? Under the Trump administration, we saw that migrants were separated, children were separated from their parents, they were kept in cages. But the latest news that we heard is the fact that at least the Trump administration was allowing the news organizations to cover the migrant crisis. The Biden administration has complete media blackouts in place. No media organization is allowed to visit these camps and look inside them. But leaked footage has surfaced dictating that it is not much different. Instead of having jail cells, they've got plastic sheets covering sections and making, well, makeshift cells, if you will. Children are just being piled into the same rooms, and in the middle of the COVID pandemic still raging, there have been cases that are rising through the roof in these facilities. We saw certain right-wing senators making their way to the Mexican border and finding out this firsthand, putting out statements, putting out videos that did not highlight the Biden administration in a good light. Nevertheless, still a developing story there, but this is the update that we have for you on that. Moving on, we understand that the AstraZeneca vaccine that was being produced in the Serum Institute of Technology in India has currently been halted because of vaccine progress lacking behind in India itself. The Indian government put out a statement dictating that it is going to start focusing in on vaccinating more of its own people and then ramping up the export. That it had exported more vaccines than it had implemented in its own nation, and that has significantly been resulting in a rise in COVID cases across our nation. What we also understand is the fact that no other nation has been putting out the amount of vaccines that India has, considering the manufacturing plant of Serum Institute of Technology. It has been such a huge player that the WHO has also acknowledged its existence and how big of a role it has played in trying to subside the pandemic and its whole. We move on to the final story update that we have for you, and that is the Suez Canal ship. The Ever Given has finally been refloated and is officially free from the banks that it was once entrapped into. What we also understand is the fact that this took a mammoth effort on the parts of the authorities as well as the salvage experts that were on play. Hats off to everyone involved on accomplishing such a ginormous fleet without actually removing each and every container and the load from the ship itself, which was also a very, very huge possibility considering that the amount of economic impact that the Suez Canal was enduring as well as the global economy was enduring due to this blockage was ginormous to begin with. That new updates dictate the fact that the Suez Canal pilots were actually responsible for running amok in the first place. Well, technically pilots are supposed to be on board while navigating the Suez Canal just so that they can ensure that the Suez Canal is being navigated properly by the ship's authorities. But in a new story, it turns out that the pilots were actually in control of the Ever Given when it ran ashore. That just dictates an all new ball game, considering that the pilots are not supposed to be navigating the ship. They're just supposed to be on board helping navigate the waters, not be in control of the ship's movements. But it's still up for grabs as to what actually happened. An official investigation is underway, and as soon as we know more on that end and something concrete rather than just speculations, we'll keep you updated on that. But with that being said, these were the updates to the stories that we had covered over a while. It's a new day. A lot keeps happening in the 24 hours news cycle, but it's more essential today than ever before to make sure that the stories that were once covered are updated from time to time again, because a lot develops. And as we stated while we covered those stories, we would let you know once we know more. And now that we know more, we let you know more. And if we do know more even after this point, make sure that these update episodes will be something that come out every once in a while to make sure that we bring you up to speed about the stories that we've already covered. This has been your morning cup. See you tomorrow.